Hello, my name is Nicole, and thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. Today, I bring you a message that is going to be a bit chilling, but hey, that is how we do as prophetess and prophets, is when the messages come into our spirit, we are to deliver them because somebody in the network needs to hear. They've been praying and they've been looking for confirmation. So today we're talking about the season of death. Okay, there's a season of life where God's mercy, His forgiveness, His unmerited favor, all of that good stuff shows up and everybody's doing pretty well. You've got an increase of weddings or engagements around that time. You've also got more babies born in a family. But then there's that season of death that shows up. And for some of us who have some spiritual gifts where we see some things that are beyond the natural, the death angel shows up, or all things related to death are in our spirits. And so we warn the people, those that are dealing with individuals who are very sickly, and they're seeing an increase of hospital visits. They're hearing more conversations among family members about a relative being quite ill. You're in a season of death, okay? And as much as people want to fight that, when God Himself is giving you confirmation, you don't fight that. You don't go along with those around you who are weak mentally, spiritually. You don't sugarcoat things, cover up things, and say a bunch of lies. Death is among the family, or among friends, or among coworkers. But when death is there as a believer, we don't run away from it. We face it head on, and we deal with the reality of death. And those of us who must grieve, we grieve. We may grieve around like-minded individuals. Notice I said like-minded believers, not unbelievers, because unbelievers do not comfort. If anything, unbelievers are looking for opportunities. Unbelievers are sometimes actors and actresses, and unbelievers can say the wrong thing at the wrong time and tempt you to want to curse or possibly be physically abusive. So when you're in a season of death as a prophetess, prophet, and simply a child of God or new believer, you are going to need to spend much time in prayer. So that means that you take the opportunity in the bathroom, in the waiting room of a hospital. You take the opportunity in a church setting. You take the opportunity before you go to bed at night and when you arise. Lord Jesus, I ask that you give me the strength. Lord, let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, right? You are not the one, though, that's sitting up there trying to fight with death by saying, it just can't be. No, I just don't want to face that. That's what you do when you're immature. That's what you do when you are still trying to figure some things out when it comes to walking this walk. That's what you do when you don't even care about the things of God and you do not want to walk with Him. Then you act immature, like the 2-year-old, like the 5-year-old, like the teenager, rebelling and angry and falling all out and upset, and somebody got to calm you down. That's your old creature, your old nature, okay? But you are new in Christ, and so therefore you've got to teach yourself, train yourself, discipline yourself, have some self-control over self. And God can provide that if you spend more time with Him and trusting in Him. He is the Alpha and the Omega. He is the beginning and He is the end. Life as well as death passes through Him. Now, some of you all are around individuals who have hidden agendas. What do I mean by that? They sense death too. And no, they're not falling out and they're not putting on any scenes. A small group. Others, there are those who do put on scenes, and then there are others who are genuinely grieving. But let's zero in on the ones with the hidden agenda. they're like vultures. They're like crows. When there's death around, they come and they start picking at the corpse. Now, you've got children of darkness who look at death, as I've said earlier, as opportunity. And so they come along and they're looking for a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Now, they may not have bothered much with individuals while they were alive, but they may come along to help clean up the deceased items. Okay? Now, the ones with the hidden agenda, their hearts are not in the right place, and they could care less about your grief. But then you got others who, they're sent by God, and it's not even about a hidden agenda. They're sent by God, and they're usually there to offer support financially, physically. They are usually there to make sure that everything gets taken care of, because sometimes people are grieving so much that they make mistakes, they don't handle business correctly, and so forth, okay? But you have those that are angry over the fact that a loved one is leaving, and so they shun everybody away. And so when they're like this, they end up causing a lot of problems because they're not willing to listen. They're assuming that everybody around them is wrong. And of course, they're not even thinking too much about God because, well, God is the one that took my beloved mother, my father, my sister, my dad, my, whoever, or, stepfather, because we got some who, esteem their guardians very much. So this isn't the time as a believer to be giving them a bunch of scriptures and to be talking a whole bunch about God. Okay, but if anything, your actions should speak louder than any words that come out of your lips. If you say that you're going to be there, then you be there. If you say that you're going to help out, then you help out. If you say that if you need anything, then even if they don't ask you for something, I don't care if it's a fruit basket, do something and you will be remembered. Now, the death angel in this season of death, some people we don't know personally, but sometimes they show up in dreams. Sometimes they show up in visions. Sometimes we just get this creepy feeling that comes over us when maybe people who are connected to that person are around. Some people can't handle a message about a loved one passing away. So that's when you have to draw near to the Lord and say, Lord, should I even mention anything? Now, if the person just comes out and asks you, have you seen anything in the spirit concerning my deceased loved one? And you know you have, then you can release that information if, of course, God has moved upon your spirit to do so. But if you release information prematurely, if you release information and nobody asks, if you release information and God himself has not given you the green light on it, then of course you're going to have somebody that's going to be very angry with you, or a group. They might even shut you out. And if there was a blessing around the corner, well, you just talked yourself out of that one. Okay? So in this season of death, we are walking softly. We are watching the words that we speak. And we are also distancing ourselves away from people who we may even feel in our spirit that God's about to take away. Now, some people will say, well, why wouldn't you just draw near to that person? Well, if you draw near to that person, the grief is going to be much more difficult. It's better to continue to work. It's better to stay active, to nurture the family you already have around you, to continue to be a good friend to those that need you, and so forth, because there's nothing you can do once a person has been marked for death. There really isn't. There really isn't. I mean, I've been through this quite a few times, okay? In less than 10 years, there was an uncle that passed, another uncle that passed. There was a great cousin that passed. There was my grandmother that passed. There was also an aunt that passed, okay? I named 5 people thus far. And then there was also my mother-in-law who passed, which is 6. Okay, and this is in less than 10 years. Okay, so after a while, you start to get used to people passing away, especially when people pass away so close together. And then there was, of course, I missed one. There was a 7th person who passed away soon after one of the uncles, and that was his wife. And then, I forgot, there was another one, an 8th one. And then my former in-laws, the husband and wife, they died within months, just like the other husband and wife. So that's 9, 10. So that's 10 people in less than 10 years. And most of them was within the past 5 years. Okay. So after a while, you start to recognize when death is coming along and claiming once again another life. Of course, death can't move unless God wills it. And there's nothing you can do. Going back to what I said, when God has marked someone, you can pray and pray and pray and pray, and things are not going to change. Case in point, last year, right across the way from me, 2 individuals had passed away. These were neighbors, okay? The one individual, I had prayed for him, and he ended up being around for a couple more weeks, as well as some other people prayed for him, okay? But when he got sick again, the prayers, they fell on deaf ears. The man was gone, okay? That was it. The other neighbor, she fought a good fight. But each time I saw her, she became more and more sick. And despite praying, God still marked her to pass away. And this woman was only 35 years old. She died of cancer. So there's nothing you can do once death steamrolls in, other than to humble yourself and to acknowledge the one true God and accept the fact that He has the power to bring life into this world, and He also has the power to take life. Okay? And sometimes people need to be reminded of some things when they're getting aggressive and getting very mean and talking some crazy talk. Sometimes if you have their ear and you happen to be really close and they know you quite well, you can get away with saying certain things that other people can't. And you might be put up to saying some things to a relative by your other family members. You're going to have to go in there and talk some sense because she don't want to pull the plug on her daddy. Honey, can you please go in there and talk to your brother because he is going off right now and he is going to end up getting all of us put in jail. You see, sometimes there's just that one person that can get through to some people because they're losing their minds. The season of death is also a time where there will be those that are not going to want to eat, and putting pressure on people to eat and putting pressure on folks to go places and do stuff and all of that. Let them grieve. Let them be in the room. Well, I'm afraid she might do something to herself, or I'm afraid that we'll stand outside the room, but you don't have to suffocate them, because then you might end up finding yourself being tempted to be very mean and nasty and ugly to them. So distance yourself and let that person scream, yell, rip their clothes, tear up their room if they have to. It's better that they get it out than for it to just slowly creep out to the point where it ends up exploding in the wrong place at the wrong time. The problem why some people end up falling out over the casket, and some folks even wanting to jump in, the ground with some folks, is because they're not given the opportunity to grieve in the way that they want. You got some of these people who snap out of it. You need to be strong. You need to be there for your kids. Why don't you get over there and do this and do that? Those individuals, Lord Jesus, I pray that nothing bad happens to them, because those types of people, those cold-hearted, cold-blooded, just messed up types of individuals, because they got their share of issues concerning death. You don't need those people around you. And if you got to get some other family members to push those people out, or to have a good conversation with them or something, then that's what you do. Okay. Because those folks, unfortunately, are nothing more than agents for Satan. Their design is to crazy make. Their design is to not see healing, because they're miserable themselves. If anything, they feed off of negativity. And the more negative you are, and the more drama that's around, the worse they become. Okay. So you want to keep the greedy people, the ones that's greedy for wealth, greedy for anything from the deceased, keep those people afar. You want to keep people who are loudmouths, that, enjoy having shocking humor, harsh humor at some of these events. Keep them far away from the grieving. Those that are looking for opportunities to collect, on debts and all that, keep them at a distance. Some other folks, the ones that are bossy, moody, argumentative, they don't need to be around the grieving either. So wherever God strategically places you around someone, make sure that you're doing your part to act like an armor bearer. An armor bearer is one that works with the pastor to make sure that nobody runs up on that pastor, and hurts him, because many pastors speak a lot of truth, and you get some people that truth is so convicting that rather than them cry about it or what have you, they want to attack. So an armor bearer is like a bodyguard for the pastor. Some of you all are called to be the bodyguard for the grieving, to keep the negative folks out, and to remind the grieving, no, you don't need to answer your phone. No, you don't need to be running and ripping with this one and that one. I'm here to make sure that everything goes well, goes smoothly. I'm not looking for anything. I'm just here to make sure that you are well taken care of. You go ahead, have your space in your room to cry, or sit out on your porch, or, if you got to be in your car for a little bit, you don't want nobody coming to your car bothering you, whatever. I'm just here to keep all of the negative, crazy, downright ugly people away from you. Okay. And that's pretty much it. And then you may just be that person for an hour. You might be that person for a day, or you might be that person that's living, with the grieving for a while until they can get back on, his or her feet. Okay. But the season of death is real. And when you see visions, or you experience something that seems a little bit out of this world, and it seems to be quite negative, just know that God is doing something. And no, it's not always positive. Sometimes it's going to be quite dark, quite morbid, quite ugly. Okay. Ask the Lord to give you strength during this tough time, as well as pray for those that are mourning, as well as pray that certain folks will be able to resist the devil, because this is also a time where you've got people who are going to try to win over widows and widowers. Okay. And you know what that's all about. Temptation is on a high, and sometimes people make some very poor decisions when they're grieving. Okay. So be that one that shows love. I thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. I'm just validating those who have gone through much and are continuing to go through much during this season of death. Well, please do check the description box for anything that might be of interest. You've been listening to YouTube NM Enterprise 7. And if you haven't given, we do welcome donations. Blessings to you.